the most refined minds of my generation put it, in my opinion, we don't dedicate nearly enough scientific research to finding a cure for jerks. That's what Calvin said to his best friend Hobbes as they were discussing the real solution to people that are just hard to deal with. And we all know those people, and this is absolutely no different from governments. A lot of them think, gosh, if we could only fix our relations, if we could only be closer friends. And this is the mindset we're going to be jumping into as we address the question, is India's outreach to Myanmar a challenge to China? And my answer to this question is no. And we'll be diving into this in 3 key points. The first will be that China's economy has hope. The second will be that India is in desperate need of economic allies. But then the third point will be Myanmar is not exactly someone you want to reach out to in the first place. But before we jump into these points, we need to look at the justification or why you should even care about China, India, and Myanmar. And the reason why this matters to you as an American citizen is because our economies are very closely intertwined. So if India or China or even Myanmar falls, you are also going to be impacted on the United States local level. We saw this when Greece started to experience its collapse. The United States stock market and our economy was impacted because confidence started to fall. So this does absolutely matter to you, even if you're all the way across the ocean from these countries. So let's jump right into the first point, that China's economy has hope. Now, the Forbes magazine reported on June 5th that China's economy is seriously slowing. And this is all self-induced because the government thought the growth they were experiencing was unsustainable. China's economy grew 10.4% in 2010, which is a record amount of growth for such a large economy with so many people that need to be sustained. But then the Chinese government looked at this and said, ooh, we might not be able to keep that up. What happens if we start to lose a lot of jobs if this growth slows down? So what they started to do was shelve infrastructure projects and other manufacturing projects because they thought if we slow it down, we're not going to have to worry about it in the future. But sadly, China was successful. They slowed their economy down by a lot. It only grew 0.5% in 2012, when it was expected to double, similar to the 2010 levels. So China's economy is in a bad situation right now, but The Economist reported in their June edition that China has all the tools it needs to turn things around without foreign intervention. So this is why, this is a key reason Myanmar is not a threat with India relations. Because China doesn't need Myanmar, whereas India does. And that's what we're going to be looking at as we look at India's economy. Now that we've seen China absolutely has hope to turn themselves around if they just take the projects off the shelves. The Hindu, which is an Indian newspaper translated into English for American or British readers, reported on June 3rd that GDP growth in India was down from 9.2% to only 5.3%. And now GDPs, even a small drop, means a lot for a country. So this is substantial that they're losing about 4% in their growth. Their economy is suffering. And India Today, another Indian newspaper, reported on June 4th that rupee value is down, trade is down, and it's time for Mission Save the Economy, which they claim is similar to Mission Impossible, before interest rates start to kill the Indian economy. But sadly, India does not have the infrastructure tools to turn this around on their own, whereas China does. So even if India takes Myanmar away from China in an economic partnership, it won't hurt the Chinese economy. But another reason why China shouldn't even be worried about Myanmar and India is because Myanmar is not a friendly country. And this ties back into we need to find a scientific cure for jerks before we worry about anything else. Because if India reaches out to Myanmar and is successful in obtaining an economic partnership, it's actually going to hurt them and all the economies tied to India in the long run. The Christian Science Monitor reported, and actually the author was Audrie Ford, which I found pretty interesting because that's my last name, said that Myanmar doesn't like other countries. It's very rare for them to reach out to someone, even if they have something to offer and something to gain through a partnership. We saw this when the United States reached out to them for human rights efforts. Myanmar said, we don't need you. We got this, no big worries. When in reality, there were serious human rights grievances inside of their country. They just don't want people to help them. They think that because they're small, if they let people into their country, they're basically going to be overrun. They've got a little person complex, and they want to show that they can take care of it by themselves. Reuters reported on May 15th that Myanmar and the rest of Southeast Asia are very corrupt in their dealings with other countries. In fact, they want India to be ousted from the BRIC organization, which is some of the biggest economic powers and seriously close trade allies. So if India is successful, they want India's spot in this trade organization. They don't want to help them. They want to continue to override the Indian economy and take their position as a world power in trade, which is why China shouldn't feel threatened, because if China and Myanmar become allies, then Myanmar is just going to do the same thing as they would to India. Try and take their place in the BRIC organization, which China and India are both members of. So what we can see is China absolutely should feel no threat from India reaching out to Myanmar, because it would be a bad partnership, and they don't need this assistance in the current system. They can take care of it themselves. They just need to start taking projects off the shelves and investing more into their economy than in their global image. But India should feel threatened by Myanmar and should stop trying to reach out to this little nation that is a big threat, because they're the jerks Calvin and Hobbes were warning us about. And that's how we've examined, is India's outreach to Myanmar a challenge to China? Thank you.